Hi there, I'm Michelle and welcome to my drawing journey. At the end of last year, I attended a basic drawing class. Afterwards, I decided to find out whether drawing is truly a skill that can be learned. Can I actually learn how to draw? I haven't been able to spend as much time on it as I would have liked. Like many people, I have a full-time job and a family that keep me really busy. Even though I have still committed myself to developing the skill as best I can with the limited time that I have available. One of the reasons I've decided to make this video is to demonstrate that drawing really is a learnable skill. I also want to mention that I'll be turning 50 in October this year. If there's something that I hope is possible, is that you can learn something new at 50. I'd like to share this journey with you by paging through some of the pages of my sketchbooks. Just a quick note before we begin, the drawings are not shown in any chronological order. When I first started, I only drew on the right-hand pages of my sketchbooks, and later I began using the left-hand pages as well, and since then my drawings have ended up scattered throughout all my sketchbooks. So let's take a look at where this journey began and how it is progressing. So this is my first sketchbook. It is a size A4, and I started drawing in this book solely originally, but then I started using other sketchbooks as well. So this is a very nice picture of a face, but I cannot take credit for it. The art instructor on that day, on that basic drawing course day, saved it so that it does in fact look like a face, and that was on the 1st of November. We will also do drawing some boxes so that we can play around with perspective and relationships, but this was quite a difficult exercise for me. That we did in pencil, and this we drew in chalk. Then I did some sketches with a hand and some more hands and then an arm and more arms. Then I spent some time trying to figure out how to draw a face. I tried to figure out what was the perspective and the proportions within a face, but it took me a while, and you will see a few of these type of exercises and I still struggled. This is a drawing of Kate Blanchett that I attempted. This was on the 28th of November last year. And as you can see, it does look like a face, but the hair is terrible. I actually made a note that hair is terrible, but I was actually quite pleased. I think at this stage, that was definitely the best attempt of a face that I could do. I have done worse, which we will see shortly. This was just also a sketch that I tried to mimic from this left-hand side. It actually shows the drawing planes, the plane lines of the face. Here I drew perspective drawings. I drew some more boxes and I tried to figure out shading. Here I tried to figure out shading with different pencils. And here I actually started with a book, textbook, which helped me a lot. These are the book that I started off with, and then I ended up getting myself this accompanying workbook. They work very good together. Betty Edwards explains how your logical brain interferes with your creative brain when you're trying to draw and see things as an artist. So reading through both these books and doing the exercises in these books really helped me a lot. I must just say that I'm not done with it yet. I do get distracted, and I got distracted, but it is my plan to finish it. I probably drew all the examples of about the first 3/4 of the book. So I must still end it off, and it is my intention to do it, but I haven't done it as of yet. So in that book, Betty Edwards' book, she says that you have to have reference images. So you draw an image before you start reading through the book and applying the principles that you learned there. And this is a hand that I drew on the 26th of November. It's my left hand, and that was my first reference picture. These are some faces that I try to sort out the face dimensions, the 26th of November and also the 8th of December. Here I'm trying to figure out perspective drawings. Here are some faces. I drew this on the 7th of December and this one on the 30th of November. Here I tried figuring out the eyes, the mouth, and even the hair, but still it's not great. Here I also tried to figure out the lashes and the eyes, but obviously struggled a lot. You can see here all of my practicing. This is a terrible picture. This was my reference picture, my second reference picture before I started with Betty Edwards, the book. And it's a self portrait. I watch myself in the mirror and I try to draw myself. And as you can see, I completely misunderstood proportions, and I actually tried to cheat by using my knowledge of proportions when I drew this, and then it actually backfired. But I'm keeping it so that I can look back on how bad things can be. And this I've actually drawn on the 15th of December last year. This one is another reference picture. I'm closing, or I'm just hiding the name of the person I was trying to draw, because if they see it, I think they might have nightmares, especially that long nose. As you can see, still trying to figure out facial proportions. So this was an exercise also from Peter Edwards' book, that I needed to draw a corner of a room. This I actually drew on the 24th of January this year already. And then these pictures I drew in the middle of December last year. So I'm just saying it doesn't follow a sequence. These exercises I was actually quite proud of. You needed to draw the pictures not the right way up. So all of these pictures for these two and the following two, I actually drew them upside down. So I had the picture of Igor Stravinsky upside down, and I drew it while both of them were upside down. And then when you turn it around and you compare it, it actually doesn't look as bad as you thought it might have looked. I did the same for the horse. So for the horse, I also drew this upside down, and afterwards I compared my drawing, and I was quite pleased with how this turned out as well. I then drew the horse and rider also upside down, and when you turn it around, my drawing actually didn't look that bad at all. I was quite pleased with how this one turned out as well. At this stage, I sort of started getting some hope that there is hope that I will improve. And then I drew this seated woman as well. I'm also quite pleased with it. This is a drawing I drew trying to practice perspective drawing. My foot was far away from me, and this was the top of my leg. So this is a slow contour, and artists use this technique or exercise. There's variations of it that you can do to just get in the creative zone, if I can put it like that, and to focus on detail. So it's almost like getting your eye in, especially if you do a live drawing of a live subject. This was a drawing of my hand, my left hand. I did this on the 29th of December. I was actually quite pleased with this one. I think it already looks much better than my original reference of my left hand. And this is a peeled orange. This one I've done on the 12th of January. This one I did at the end of December last year. Also, so much better than my original reference photo. Here I started working with negative space to draw a chair. Here I also draw flowers, and I think I also used negative space to actually do this drawing as a technique, and this was some fake flowers in a glass. Here I tried to draw faces again. As you can see, I'm still struggling with that. This is another proportion drawing of, I actually got this picture online somewhere, but you can see the feet is actually bigger than the head at the top. And I used the 4-grid method to help me to keep my drawing in proportion. This one is lilies that I tried. I ended up doing a few drawings of lilies, but it ended up being much more difficult than I thought it would be. This is another drawing that I just copied from Betty Edwards' book. This one, it was the right side up, and it actually sort of looked like a chair and somebody reading the Bible. This is protea leaves. I used negative space to draw that again. Here is a lily, and here is another lily. Here are some kitchen utensils. And you can see, so this is perspective drawing exercise, especially this one. I call it a zero, and you can see my perspectives drawing isn't right. Okay, so at this stage, I am going to go through to my A3 sketchbook because I got distracted and I started doing two domestica courses with charcoal drawing. Okay, so this is my A3 book. Um, and this was the beginning of the first. It was a animal charcoal drawing course done by Laura McKendry, I think, on Domestica. Please just read, I put a disclaimer on the screen about Domestica if you ever want to support them. So just read there what I've written. This was basically different types of charcoal, and she was explaining how the different types of charcoal work. Some of them are darker, some of them are easier to erase. So that was quite interesting. Here she explained some techniques, different techniques that she uses when she draws animals. Some long hair, some spiky hair, some curly hair. So that was quite interesting as well. Here I drew the shape of a dog's head using different techniques. And this was the end project that I completed. I was so amazed. This actually looks like a dog. I was really proud of being able to draw this. If you look closely, you will see the body doesn't look 100% correctly, but it does look like a dog. So I was really excited about that. I drew this on the 17th of February. I also drew my own dog, Sherbet, and it definitely looks like her. If I show this to anybody that knows her, they will also agree that it looks like her. I actually wanted to draw a cat as well, and I found a very nice picture of a little kitten called Butter on the Raise a Rescue Facebook page. I'll put the link to this picture in the description below. This was done on the 21st of February. So I was done with the animal drawing course, and then I started with another Domestica course. Sarah Stoke presented it, and it was a portrait drawing course with charcoal. So here she also just explained the characteristics of the different type of charcoal, and I did the exercise with her. She showed me how to make drops of water. She did an example of how to draw an eye. You can see that she was using grid lines there, and she actually also referred to Betty Edwards' book because for some parts of drawing the eye, she actually turned the picture upside down, which was that exact same technique that I just showed you earlier. I did this on the 28th of March. This was the end product that I did on that course, and I really enjoyed it. And now I started getting some courage, and I started getting the idea that maybe one day I will be able to draw faces. I used the grid line method to draw out the outlines of the face. What I did find was that she didn't really explain how to draw the hair properly. Even though she added, you can see the reference picture doesn't have hair. Her example, she did add hair to it, but she didn't show me how exactly to do that. So I had to improvise. And as you can see, the hair doesn't really look nice. But the face, I think, started, and I mean, the face really started to take shape nicely. I think up until this stage, I've never drawn a face that actually looks like a face. At this stage, I actually went to attend a drawing course, a charcoal drawing course at La Motte Atelier, and I found it extremely difficult. I'm going to show you some of what I've done there. We actually drew a live person, and I've never done that before. So this was my first attempt. I'm sure that the instructor, she helped me the whole weekend because I was the baby, the biggest baby beginner of the group. So this also looks like a face. And here I didn't really look at proportions. I tried to draw what I see, and I think that worked out a little bit better for me. The next picture I'm going to put down on the side, otherwise it won't fit into the screen. This was another drawing of a live figure that I attempted. And then I'm going to show you the end product for that weekend. We drew a face. That was my reference picture, and this was the end product. And for me, this was also such a big improvement of drawing a face. I really struggled during that whole weekend to draw. I made a lot of errors. The instructor helped me, and I didn't finish this final example during the weekend. So I took it home and I tried to finish it as best I can. And then I sent a picture of it to the instructor, who then gave me a final critique. There's a lot of errors here that you can try to nitpick on, but for me, my faces keeps on getting better, and I am really hopeful that it will continue to do so. So from here, I'm going to go back to my A4 sketchbook. This is where we stopped last time, so I'm going to continue now. This is still examples from the Betty Edwards book. I'm just trying to copy the picture that she gives me, and every picture that she gives actually requires you to develop or focus on a different aspect of drawing. Here I'm doing a face, side profile, and this is a side profile of my husband's face that I also needed to do. This was on the 4th of April. Here I started another Domestica course. I didn't continue with it. It is my plan to still continue with it, but the instructor that actually showed me how to draw this face didn't tell me what method he was using. I didn't understand the method that he was using. So it felt a little bit up in the air. I was really frustrated. And as you can see, I actually did some research. This is how the face is supposed to be presented. I actually wrote down the name because I figured out it's the George Brigman way of drawing a face. And I mean, even you looking at a few YouTube videos, trying to really figure this out, I couldn't. So I have a reference picture of this one. I should have pasted it here, but then I made all these notes trying to figure out how it was working. This is the original reference picture that I did try and draw, but yeah, this actually frustrated me. The course that I was doing actually has different instructors, so I would have moved over to a new instructor, but at this stage I got very frustrated, so I just stopped. And then I actually saw a very good eye drawing tutorial of AHR Studios. The instructor's name is Ali. I'll put the details of his studio at the description below as well. And then I actually paid, I think, $9 to attend this pencil drawing course. I think it's a very good complement with Betty Edwards' book. He actually focused on how do you shade and a lot of little techniques that you would not really figure out on your own. Well, not immediately anyway. So this was the reference picture that I needed to draw as part of that course. And when I'm done with that course, I need to draw a reference picture again. And so far, I hope to continue and finish his course. This was actually a slow contour exercise that we did as part of that charcoal drawing course in April. This is supposed to be my face, but here at least you don't look while you draw. So this one's got an excuse of why it looks the way that it does. These are some perspective and shading drawings that is also part of the AHR Studios drawing course that I'm doing. Here it teaches you how to do shading by using lines, some more perspective and shading examples. Here he used just basic shapes to make a drawing. Here I practiced the back and forth shading technique. I still struggle with that. Here is some other different shading techniques. That's stippling. This is scumbling, and then hatching using lines again. Here it's the back and forth shading technique as well as the scumbling technique. This is supposed to be a orange. So here I do some 1-point perspective drawings, and this was the last examples of the book. From here I actually went to another book. I got this book as a present, and the pages are really nice and smooth, but it's not thick. So I can't really do any heavy drawing on it because then the page will get damaged. Here I was practicing to draw circles with a free hand and squares with a free hand. All of this is part of the AHR drawing course. So this is another example of you using geometric shapes to draw. This one is a 2-point perspective example. 2-point perspective. Here, this was my first drawing of a realistic looking banana. It was really really impressed with myself here. And this is just different shading grids that I was playing around with, and also using different pencils. So I was testing that out there. So from here, I moved over to a new A4 book. This was the book I bought myself. It's a hardcover book. It looks really nice. It's 160 grams thick, but it's very textured. So I don't think I'll be using this a lot more from now on, because I've been struggling with my shading. But I'm going to show you what I've been doing so far. This was an example of a 1-point perspective. This was a drawing example of a 2-point perspective. All of this is from that AHR Studios pencil drawing course. This is another 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective example. I actually made an error here at the bottom, but I decided I'm not going to redo it. This is another 3-point perspective drawing. And this was a drawing with shading. I was really happy with this picture that I drew. I thought it looked really quite realistic, the apple and the banana. This one was 2 pears. And I remember actually doing all these dots, and then you had to actually use like a mono eraser to get the textures there. But I was actually really quite pleased with the result. The instructor shows you how to do everything. He talks you through everything while he is doing it. I really enjoy his courses. So this was a still life drawing. And you can see that there's a lot of texture on the page. And that texture actually makes things difficult for me. So I think this was the last picture. I don't know when I'm going to continue drawing on this book again. I think I need to get myself a more smooth, decent thickness sketchbook to continue on. But from here, I still have some more drawings of this particular course in my A3 book. So let's have a look at that. So this was an example of a kettle pot that I drew. I actually thought this was really nice. I needed to make some graphite powder from graphite sticks. I think that was too dark to begin with. And then I actually saturated the page already. So I did struggle with the shading, and you will see actually the grid lines. I struggled to erase that. You can actually see this on this drawing. But I continue to learn, and I find that positive, and ultimately I actually enjoyed making this, and I'm happy with the end result. This I actually drew on the 3rd of July. Well, I finished it on the 3rd of July. I really I took like a week working on this before I could finish it. And I'm currently busy actually doing some textures, trying to figure out how to do that. This is all still part of the AHR Studios drawing course. And I will continue to show you my progress and how I felt while doing it. So I just want to show you some other drawings that I did of faces. I did that in between some of the other exercises, and I'm really excited about that. The first one here is a drawing, trying to draw a realistic drawing. This was the reference photo. I did this on the 8th of, well, I finished it on the 8th of May, and I was happy with it, but it's obviously not super realistic. The shape of the face was wrong. There's a lot of errors here, but I do see that I'm continuously improving. The next drawing I did was of another face, and I really took so much care. I used a grid to draw the outlines of the face, and I took a lot of care to get the dimensions right of the nose and the eye and the mouth. I made sort of mini grids for these areas to try and get it right. And if I look at the two together or side by side, I really feel that there is a really good likeness between the reference photo and the photo that I've drawn. And the other one, I'm just going to show you a picture. I recently finished this. This is a picture of Cindy Crawford. It used to be an advertisement when I was a young girl in magazines. It's just of her in her perfume. I think it was Halston was the perfume's name. And I tried to recreate that with a charcoal drawing on an A1 piece of paper. And I was actually quite pleased with how this came out as well. So this is where I currently find myself on my drawing journey. When I look back to where I started, I think there is clear evidence of improvement, and that gives me hope that I can continue to get better over time. One of the biggest lessons I've learned so far is that it is absolutely possible to learn to draw better, but it does take time, patience, and consistent practice. I've also found that following a structured learning approach has been more effective than simply trying to copy random images or instructions from the internet or YouTube, although that's actually how I began. Working through drawing on the right side of the brain, attending a charcoal drawing workshop, completing some of the Domestica courses, and completing the lessons from the AHR Studios course have all helped me develop my skills in a much more meaningful way. I've also learned that making mistakes is an essential part of the process. It can be really frustrating at times, but there's something incredibly rewarding about finally getting a drawing right after struggling with it. I hope that this video encourages someone else to start drawing, or perhaps finally take up a hobby they've been putting off for years. No matter your age, it's never too late to learn a new skill. For me, the creative process has been incredibly rewarding so far, and I'm excited to see where this journey leads. I hope to continue improving, and I'd love to share the rest of that journey with you. Although I don't have the capacity to upload videos very frequently, I'm hoping that over time I'll be able to build a collection of evidence that will prove that learning to draw really is possible, even when you're starting later in life. If this video resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you have any advice for me or for others who are just starting their own drawing journey, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.